You
Okay.
cannot be detainment is arrested. Detainment is invented when Terry versus Ohio.
What? Folks, as many of us are now aware, Chille de Castro's main shtick appears to be "Grr, Terry versus Ohio is the devil. We need to overturn it," which is a neat opinion. However, during one of his soapbox sound-offs, he did make the statement that Terry versus Ohio invented detainments, which is wrong. But to explain how, I need to go over a few things, which you may have already seen in other videos, so bear with me. First, Terry versus Ohio is a 1968 landmark case from the Supreme Court, which determined it was not unconstitutional for someone to be stopped and frisked based on suspicion of a crime not amounting to probable cause for an arrest. This is where we get the terms Terry stop or Terry frisk. This case was all about the Fourth Amendment, which prohibits, among other things, unreasonable searches and seizures by police. If, like me, and presumably unlike delete laws, you read a lot of case law about the Fourth Amendment, the term unreasonable is incredibly important, and this is what creates the difference between a detainment for reasonable suspicion and an arrest for probable cause. For example, it may be reasonable to seize someone in the context of an arrest for 24 hours, pending an appearance in front of a magistrate because there is probable cause to believe a crime has occurred. It is almost certainly not going to be reasonable to seize someone in the context of a detention for that same amount of time, based on mere reasonable suspicion. Detentions and arrests have different standards of reasonableness. In Terry versus Ohio, the Supreme Court determined it was reasonable, and therefore not a violation of the Fourth Amendment, to stop a person and detain them briefly for questioning upon suspicion that they may be connected with criminal activity. Upon suspicion that the person may be armed, the police should have the powers to frisk them for weapons. If the stop and the frisk establishes probable cause to believe that the suspect has committed a crime, then the police should be empowered to make a formal arrest and a full search of the person. This scheme is justified in part by the notion that a stop and frisk amounts to a mere minor inconvenience and petty indignity. But to say this ruling created detentions is false. It's more like it confirmed them at the highest legal level. Prior to Terry versus Ohio was the 1964 case People versus Rivera from the New York Court of Appeals. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Indeed, the right of the police to stop and question the defendant in such circumstances as those disclosed by this record was recognized at common law. It is extensively treated both by statute and by judicial decision as reasonable and necessary police authority for the prevention of crime and the preservation of public order. And as the right to stop and inquire is to be justified for a cause less conclusive than that which would sustain an arrest, so the right to a frisk may be justified as an incident to inquiry upon grounds of elemental safety and precaution, which might not initially sustain a search. Not so sure about that accent. But I get another chance thanks to the 1915 ruling on People versus Merendi from New York's Court of Appeals. It was thus affirmatively established that the officer, without informing the defendant of the cause of his arrest or detention, or even that he was under arrest, had merely detained them temporarily for the purpose of searching him, presumably to ascertain whether he had a weapon upon his person. No. But it doesn't matter, because that's not what's important. What is important is it appears that both arrests and detentions existed in 1915. Well, isn't that interesting? Almost as if you're just making things up, Chille de Castro. What a shock. Anyway, that's all I got. If you like the video, there's a like button. If you dislike the video, there's also a dislike button. You can subscribe for more nonsense like this. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member. You can go to my Patreon or Etsy. Those are in the video description. And I think that's it. Other than, no, leave a comment for me in the comments section. Let's have a talk. We'll chat. We'll communicate. It'll be great. I'll bring some more. And until the next time, be good. Stay safe.